look into the possibilities of a strategic equity partner. This gives us an opportunity to combine both public and private sector capabilities in order to reposition SAA both within the domestic market, but importantly on the continent and beyond as well. It will enable us to augment SAA with technical, financial, and operational expertise. SAA itself, notwithstanding what we've heard in the recent past, is a well-known brand on the continent and globally. It will contribute its brand, its landing slots, its route licenses, its lounges, and its loyalty program, amongst other things, into the partnership. SAA, of course, like every airline in the world, has been impacted severely, as have other South African airlines, by the pandemic. And as a result of the trajectory which the pandemic has taken across the world, as you know, borders have been opening and closing at various stages. There's no doubt, as the IATA points out, that vaccination of the entire population of the world, at least the adult population, will make a huge difference to both regional travel and indeed global travel as well. And in the African context, there is a huge need for African connectivity between the major cities and major centers of economic activity, but in terms of family connections as well. It is anticipated that Africa will be the largest and growing and most rapidly growing market as far as aviation is concerned, in terms of the movement of people, cargo, and trade, particularly in the context of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement beginning to settle in. The objective of the partnership clearly is to relaunch, as I pointed out, a viable, scalable, and agile national airline, which is not dependent on the fiscus. SAA will be a substantial operating business in its own right. It will almost immediately begin to revive and re-establish partnerships with African and international airlines and networks to fully access the growing African aviation market. It will build, through this partnership, a model public-private partnership that leverages the commercial skills of the consortium. It will build on the brand name and positive image of SAA, and which together will serve the national interests of South Africa. An airline connectivity for a country that is at the lower end of the Southern Hemisphere is absolutely crucial, both for its economy, but also in particular for tourism, which is a major contributor to South Africa's economy. In building this partnership, we will build a new and unique South African culture in the airline, which showcases the country's broad skills, talent, and diversity. So where is this process at the moment? There will be a memorandum of understanding that has been signed between the consortium and government, firstly. Secondly, government has undertaken the appropriate due diligence exercise into the consortium itself. Thirdly, the consortium will complete its due diligence exercise into the airline. Fourthly, once those processes are completed, there will be the signing and agreement on a purchase and sale agreement. And in parallel with that, there will be taking place for both immediate or relatively immediate flying as far as SAA is concerned, but also a route plan, a fleet plan, and a staffing plan that will incorporate the best that is available to us. The key elements then, let me repeat, is that the Takatso consortium will own 51% of the airline. and government 49%. The intention is to list the airline in the future to address future funding requirements, but also enable South Africans to buy shares into this airline once it has settled down in its new form. Again, as a reminder, the funding will be provided by the consortium, which has mobilized the necessary capital. The operational capability will come both from ex-SAA staff, but importantly from the consortium as well. On the board of SAA, the new SAA, board seats will be allocated in accordance with the proportions of ownership that I've indicated earlier on, and any variations on that depending on the outcome of the due diligence exercises. Similarly, as far as management is concerned, the composition of the management team will take into account South Africa's national demographics and transformation agenda. Government will have a golden share, which of 33%. In other words, this is a non-dilutable share that the consortium and government has agreed on if there are changes in the shareholding. And it will also enjoy certain preemptive rights while taking responsibility for the historic liabilities. As part of the due diligence exercise, there will also be an evaluation of the subsidiaries, that's in particular Airchefs, SAA Technical, which is an important asset to have in South Africa, but which was also made a mess of during the process of corruption and state capture. And the future of Mango will also be determined accordingly. It is important to emphasize that transformation in the broadest sense is a very important component of this new process and partnership that we have undertaken. Firstly, as I said, there will be a majority Black ownership since the consortium is 51% Black owned. That far as the board and management is concerned, the composition of the board, the composition of the management, and staffing shall take into account the appropriate skill sets that are available, but in order to represent the national demographics of South Africa and the transformation agenda that our society has. The chairperson of the board shall be a South African. The airline will be domiciled in South Africa. The majority of the executive team will be South African, and if there's a need, expertise will be brought in from the outside. But in the next few years, we must have a fully trained, demographically representative management capability within South Africa to run airlines well into the future. As far as pilots are concerned, the consortium will prioritize the training and promotion of qualified Black pilots as part of a non-racial team of qualified men and women. And women in particular will be given opportunities through this transformation agenda. So ladies and gentlemen, once the due diligence exercise is completed and many of these elements have taken on their final form, we will keep the public further informed about the exact launch dates and so on. But our objective of creating a viable, competitive, sustainable airline, which is not dependent on the fiscus, takes a huge step forward with this agreement being in place and with the partnership that we have created as government with this consortium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. We now open for questions. I don't see any hands raised. Let me go to the chat. Colleagues, you can raise your hand or either write your questions down on the Q&A or the chat. Tando Maeko from Business Day, does the private include the sale share of SA subsidiaries? I think Minister have answered that. How much is the equity partner pumping into the deal? How long will the due diligence take? Minister, you've got that. The next one. from Kate Nathan, please clarify the subsidiaries position. I thought Minister clarified it. But from also Arthur Goldstone, question for Guido Novik, do you plan to introduce novel business models at SAA of the kind that characterize Kulula and Lift? Minister, you'll decide who takes whether. So yeah, those are the questions. The issue on the clarifying the position of subsidiaries is Minister thinks clarified. Sibahle from Jacaranda FM, will new airline keep its name or will there be a new name for the airline? I think that's the fourth question. I'll leave you to answer those questions, Minister, so that we can get to the next round.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me first take the opportunity to introduce the two representatives of the consortium, that is Takatso. The one gentleman that will also like to address you, I'm sure at some stage, is Sepo Mashlole. He's representing Harith in this consortium, and Gideon Novik is representing Global Airways in this consortium as well. How much they are pumping in, let them make the confession to you on that, but it's a total of over 3 billion rands in the initial stages, and they will decide how to raise further capital if they actually need it. How long will the due diligence take? Well, it's not about how long, but it's how short a time can we finish this in so that we can get this process off the ground. So another few weeks, we'll see the conclusion of this process. As far as the subsidiaries are concerned, as I said, they are currently undergoing review. Some of them will have to undergo some levels of restructuring. And an important component, by the way, of our understanding with the consortium is that there will be an employee incentive or share scheme still to be discussed in detail so that employees at the new SAA have a stake in the airline as well. The name will remain the same, but we will see if some creative genius can be applied to that as well. So Richard, let me give Mr. Mashlole the opportunity to say a few words, followed by Mr. Novik.
Okay, thanks, Minister. Mr. Mashlole, can you open your video icon so that the broadcasters can see you?
Okay.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Richard. From our side, we're very glad that we have reached this point, with your department, Minister, and the government in general. We believe that, with the experience that we've put together as an investment house with infrastructure assets and transport assets across the continent, we believe that with this initiative of South African Airways and partnering with yourselves and with Gideon and his team at Global, we believe that this is a very novel sort of venture, bringing the best of South Africa together to sort of solve some of our pertinent challenges that we've had for a while. And we believe that, the whole sector, from our point of view, is one that is growing, especially in the African sense, and look forward to a very profitable and sustainable venture going forward in this partnership. We really are very enthused that Gideon and his team, looking at the experience of what they've done in this sector over many decades, with his experience in various ventures across the sector. We were looking forward to this and believe that it will be a very good venture going ahead.
Mr. Novik.
Mr. Novik.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Richard. Thanks, Tsepo, for handing over and for your trust. Quite an emotional day for me and my team. It's not very often that one gets an opportunity to live one's dream and work in an industry that one loves, the way I and my team love the airline and aviation industry. But to layer that with an opportunity to serve our country is very special. So a deep, deep thank you to you, to your colleagues. Sangay and Venkat, I think, need a special mention. They've been exceptional. We've had incredible dealings with your team, and thank you. Many people have said that we are crazy collectively to be starting an airline or restarting an airline in this environment, in today's environment. We're experiencing the third wave of COVID right now. Ironically, we believe quite strongly it's the best time. Airline models around the world, legacy models, are being challenged. They are flawed in many ways. The opportunity to access aircraft at very affordable prices, and most importantly, the opportunity to access unbelievable talent in this industry, unbelievable talent that actually exists right here in South Africa, is an incredible opportunity right now. So timing-wise, I think we've got it right. I think we're fortunate, and we're going to build something special. As Tsepo mentioned, we have the perfect ingredients. We've got all the knowledge and insight and national interest that government brings. We've got the capital and financial insight and African experience that Harith has. And from a global point of view, we have incredible depth of experience and talent in the airline industry. We've got a lot to do. It's certainly keeping us up at night. The list is long. We've got to figure out which routes we want to fly. We've got to figure out what planes we want to fly. We've got to figure out, we've got to understand the subsidiaries of SAA a lot better than we currently do. And we really want to focus on customers, and in particular customers that have been so loyal in the past in the Voyager program and generally, and we want to win them back. And we want South Africans to know that this is going to be their airline. So just to end off, again, a thank you. I flew SAA for the first time when I was a little kid. I was privileged enough to get on a 747. And in those days, to get to Europe, you had to fly all the way around the bulge of Africa because SAA wasn't allowed to fly over Africa. The flight took about 20 hours, which I was delighted about because I loved flying so much. But just so exciting to be launching a brand new SAA. This is going to be an iconic South African brand. It's going to be something that not only all South Africans are proud of, but something that we're going to make a statement globally in terms of what South Africa can achieve. Thank you once again.
Richard, I can see some of the questions, so let me go through them. Tsepo, you want to come in? Richard, hold on. Let me just take the questions myself. I can see it on my screen. So just give me a second while I get to the right one. There are a couple of questions about where does Lyft stand and where does Mango stand. All of that is in the mix at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. So in a few weeks' time, we'll indicate to you as a partnership where each of these elements fall into the equation. Sebastian, we've attended to yours. That could some of the subsidiaries be closed down? Anything can happen. So let's just go through the current period of evaluation to see what other moments of creativity we can have from the new partnership in relation to how we handle each of them. We will all be very careful about how we look after staff. And it is at this point that I want to clarify something, because there's a question here somewhere, is how much more will this cost? We've got to draw a line in the sand today. And the line in the sand is in respect of concluding the business rescue process, which is government's responsibility. And whilst that is being undertaken, which includes the issue of the Pilots Association as well, and while that is being concluded, we are starting the process of getting the partnership on its feet. So that which we have to deal with in relation to the business rescue process, whether that is further staff that still have to be paid out their retrenchment packages, although most of them have already been paid, whether it is certain creditors that need to be settled. As you know, once out of business rescue, a receivership is created and has been created by the creditors. It is that receivership which over the next 2 years still has to pay off lessors of aircraft to SAA, for example. And those are issues that will conclude in their own right on a separate trajectory. Today, we launch a different trajectory. And the different trajectory is the new SAA under the control of a new partnership, and which will serve, as both the gentlemen have pointed out, the national interest as we go forward. But of course, we've got to serve the commercial interests of the partners as well. How much money does, and Lonnie Prinsloo asked this question, does government still need? So I've just indicated that we've said this for some time now, but somehow there's an inability to appreciate these two tracks. The one track, as I said, is concluding business rescue. In that particular regard, over the next 2 years or 2.5 years, including the past year, a total of 14 billion rands is required. 10.5 billion rands will find its way to us once the special appropriation bill has been passed in Parliament and assented to by the President. And the rest we'll see how we sort out within government. But as far as the new airline is concerned, government will not be putting in any more money. And that's the clear message that we would like to communicate to you and with you. Given the loss of faith in SAA, how will it rebuild its credibility? Well, I think both my colleagues on the call have indicated that this is a new beginning. And it's an opportunity to win back the trust and confidence. And of course, given the fact that we are in a very competitive market, the partnership must expect that all sorts of uncalled for shots will be taken at this particular announcement. But that's par for the course in business, I suppose, and as is part of the competitive spirit in which the aviation market actually operates. But we hope that there's a decent and constructive relationship with all the other airlines, and where possible, that the partnership will cooperate with them as well. The Pilots Association, I've given an indication of that already. How much is the equity partner putting in? I said to you that over 3 billion rands. How long will the due diligence take? The next few weeks. Clarify the position of the subsidiaries. I've done that 3 times already. Let me do it a 4th time and indicate to you that all the subsidiaries are currently being evaluated to see if there's a fit with the new partnership and to explore whether there are other options available to us as well. As far as the name is concerned, the name, as far as the partnership is concerned, will be retained, but anybody who has some interesting designs or ideas on the creative side, please submit them. And our partners will gladly welcome any thoughts in that direction.
Yeah, thanks, Minister.
I think I've covered most of the questions that have come up now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thanks, Minister. Thanks, Minister. Let me take Arthur Goldstack, a question from you. You raised your hand. And then after that, I will take Lonnie Prinsloo. You've raised your hand. I see you. Arthur, let's go.
Thank you, Richard. It's a question for Gideon. Firstly, congratulations. This is an incredible step in your career and your history. And given that history, do you plan to introduce novel business models at SAA of the kind that characterized Kalula and Lyft?
Thanks, Richard. Can I answer that?
Okay, let's have another one to answer, Gideon.
Sure.
Loni.
Richard, we've answered the question that
You can
was in
go ahead
writing.
and ask the question. Loni, Prinsloo. Okay, let me take Ray. You were next on the queue. Ray Masaka, Daily Maverick. You can go ahead. Unmute yourself, Ray.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ray. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. It's Ray Mashaka from Daily Maverick. A question to the Minister. Did you impose any conditions as a minority shareholder going forward in SAA? You know, I'm trying to understand the terms of, you know, the agreement with the consortia. Did you impose any, you know, conditions relating to long-term labor agreements, for example? Will there be any restrictions on routes going forward? I just wonder how much voice will you have in the future SAA as a minority shareholder?
Okay, thanks, Ray. Let me also take the Babalo. Come in. You can raise your question, Babalo.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Richard. My question is really for Gideon. I'm just checking. I think the earlier question might be linked. I mean, will the FAA take on a budget airline type of a model, for instance, like Lyft?
Babalo,
I'm not sure everybody heard you clearly.
Babalo, we can't hear you. But Minister, maybe in the meantime, let's take that two questions, and then Gideon will answer that other one raised by Arthur.
Yeah, let Gideon answer Arthur Goldstuck's question.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks, Minister. Thanks, Richard.
Arthur's going to buy the first ticket on the new airline.
Please, Arthur. Can we count on you? There were actually two questions that I think I can combine in one. The one, Arthur's question, and thanks, Arthur, relating to innovation. And there was a question relating to efficiency. Would we be operating at a low cost? What's essential for an airline in today's environment is a few things. First and foremost, to have an incredibly efficient infrastructure and operating model. And as I mentioned earlier, it's the perfect time, possibly in the last 3 or 4 decades, to be setting up an airline on a very efficient cost base. So that will be the foundation of the new SAA. But having said that, low cost does not mean any compromise or, to service or the product that's offered. This will be a company at the core of its culture will be service. We call it an obsession with customer service, and that's what the new SAA will be about. And in terms of innovation, I think South Africa has shown in so many respects that we are incredibly innovative and creative as a nation. And we'll certainly be tapping into that creativity and innovation, as well as the use of technology. We all know where technology is at the moment and the speed at which it's changing. And we will introduce the latest technology into the airline in every way that it makes sense. So very exciting to combine all those elements into the new SAA.
Okay, Seppo, you can confess whether I had a gun at your head on behalf of government or not. And Raymond Schlacker's question, and then I'll back you up on on that.
I think on our side, we have very extensive investments in the transport sector. And our investment thesis and our investment sort of like objective is really driven by looking at assets which will complement that which we already have, you know, within our arsenal of assets. And that which will also complement what we believe is like, you know, a growing sort of like intra-Africa, intra sort of like city model, which is going. And we believe that the aviation sector, included to some of our rail, our roads, and our bridges, and our those airport infrastructure, will really complement that whole offering from a spread point of view, and from a whole issue of creating platforms which can then create a whole lot of connections across the sector, but not only across the sector, but also across the continent. So for us, it is that which drives our interest in being part of this great initiative. And it is all driven by a very sustainable, investment thesis, and partners that we believe, in their model, which is very much, focused on proper acquisition strategy in terms of assets, but also a very sort of well-resourced sort of maintenance strategy with regards to going forward in terms of those assets. So the opportunity which has come about now at this time, and also as a result of where the industry finds itself because of what the pandemic has caused, I think is a very perfect, almost sort of time with regards to getting into the sector and getting in at a time when the opportunity to set up in a very sustainable manner presents itself. And for us, that is what has been driving this interest. But in addition to that, we, from our governance of the platform, the consortium, will have the management thereof, will have the board sort of majority thereof, and we'll also have the chairmanship thereof. So therefore, from an ability to run a properly managed outfit, I think that was very key in terms of our engagement with the department and then with government, and also very key in terms of us as a partnership with Global going forward. The ability to be able to manage this sustainably, and also put up an airline business that can be one amongst the best ones to trade in this environment and on the continent, to assume that role which SAA had before of a leading airline for the continent.
So Ray, let me add to that. There was no gun at the head of the consortium. Everything that we've said this morning has been arrived at through a very collaborative process. And there's an understanding that government, as the owner of SAA, has certain imperatives. And as both the gentlemen have said, they not only serve their own commercial interests and excitement about aviation, but they also understand that this is part of a national initiative to keep our country connected to the rest of the world as well. So voice will be represented on the basis of the 5149, and the regulators will have their voice. And an important component, and something that SAA has been extremely proud of over the years, is safety. And that is going to be an important underpinning factor as we go forward as well. So the whole purpose of this exercise is to let a business be run on an efficient basis, with the interests of all the shareholders being served well, and in a spirit of collaboration, consultation, and resolving issues across the table. Okay, Richard,
Thank you,
we
Minister.
start rounding up now.
Yeah, I think that's one of the few questions. I don't see any more hands. We have dealt with all the questions. Just colleagues, to remind colleagues, this is Taka. The name means aspire, as the minister said earlier. That's the name of the consortium. Takatso, I see people mentioning other names, is Takatso, which means aspire. Colleagues, any last questions?
And there's a press statement which you should distribute, Richard, to everyone.
Yeah, no, thanks. I will distribute the press statement. Also, our colleagues from Takatso will also disseminate their own media statement. So colleagues, thank you very much for joining us today. This is a historic announcement by government, and thank you for attending. See you the next event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Gideon and Seppo.
Seppo.
Thank you, Chair.
Gideon.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Gideon.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. The Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, saying they're launching a new SAA and repositioning still some outstanding matters with regards to the completion of the business rescue process. He says they want to create a viable and sustainable SAA, starting off there by outlining the airline's new ownership structure. A strategic equity partner, Takatso Consortium, which is 100% black-owned, will own 51% of the airline, and government will own 49%. One wonders how much sway the government will have as a minority shareholder. Funding will be provided by the consortium at $3 billion initially. National Treasury will not be funding this process, and he says routes will be announced in due time. A memorandum of understanding will be signed by government and the consortium in terms of the route plan and staffing, an intention to list the airline in the future, and that a new diligence exercise will look into many aspects, including who is responsible for historic liabilities, and composition of staff will take into account skills, but also keep in mind the transformation agenda of the country. A new beginning. I don't know. What do you think? I'm just thinking, will they bring back former CEO Vuyani Jagana? I'm just wondering out loud. Let's take a break.